Self-Destruction, Part 4. Pesticides, herbicides, and artificial sweeteners and fats.
Let's get to the big Bowsers, the true devils that I believe pushed us down that hill of health, us gathering fat and disease, broken bodies and brains along the way, and it all goes back to those trillions of creatures that are just as much part of us as we are now part of them, our bacteria and mitochondria. You have about 37 trillion human cells. Yeah, that's a lot, but you also have about 37 trillion bacteria living inside you. And mitochondria, those guys are basically the ancient bacteria living in your cells and powering basically everything in our body. We didn't just evolve from bacteria, we evolved as bacteria, together with bacteria. You cannot separate the two, or cannot separate the trillions of bits of pieces in reality. And if you do, or try to, well, you get what we have today: obesity, autism, diabetes, Alzheimer's, bipolar, schizophrenia, cancer. Call it whatever you want. These are diseases, disorders of separation, dysregulation of our mitochondria and bacteria. When we started killing the mitochondria and bacteria, we unknowingly started killing ourselves. And when did that really start? The late 1970s. Right when obesity and all of these health problems started picking up. Yeah, we had the antibiotics, we had some basic soaps, and yeah, fluoride started getting put into certain water supplies from the 1940s and 50s in America, at least, starting with Grand Rapids, Michigan. Lucky citizens over there get to participate in this weird fluoride human trial. Ooh, round 1. We'll see how it goes. And that's just 2 hours from Flint. And that started in 1945. It was supposed to protect the teeth, which it might well have done, but it also wiped out a lot of our oral and gut bacteria in the process.
Whoops, I keep making these silly mistakes. My calculations must have be off somewhere here. I can't find it. Where is it exactly? Anyway, at least your teeth are clean, right? Here's a sucker for your troubles. Come on back.
The fluoridation programs then expanded in the 1950s and 60s. Today, most of the public water supply in the United States is contaminated with fluoride and probably a lot of other things too. Yes, it kills the bad bacteria, thereby keeping your teeth clean and shiny, but it also kills the good bacteria, thereby disrupting various different systems and processes in your body, perhaps contributing to your current lack of mood and health. These fluoridation programs then spread to other countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Yep, those exact same places that, if you listen to the previous episode, are fattest today. It's worth mentioning that many European countries did reject fluoridation. Kill my microbiome? No, danke. I am good. My gut is good. Finland, France, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, Italy, and more, they all said, no, I don't want it. Not here. Most of continental Europe chose not to dump fluoride into its water. Thank God Japan, where I am, also did not. Anyway, in most countries today, it's done on a city-to-city basis, so it's best to just check out what's going on in your city. Usually there isn't like a big, giant, centralized national water supply. Often it's done on the local level. There are countries with centralized water systems like Germany, France, and Singapore. The US and Japan, on the other hand, for example, have a decentralized system. Water is handled on a local level. Thank God, because if that wasn't the case, then we might have all had to suffer the ways those innocent citizens in Flint did. It's freaking sad. People suffering like that just because they wanted to drink water, something that's good for them, something they need, and they trusted their government, and that trust was broken on this basic level. But what's even sadder and scarier is the fact that we are all basically tied up to the same food and agriculture system. But before that, to finish off the topic of fluoride, it also is commercially found in toothpastes. Crest introduced the first fluoride-containing toothpaste in 1955. It then increased in popularity, and unless you're using one of those natural toothpastes like Tom's or Jason, you're probably sucking on it, swigging it around today, protecting your teeth, but harming or killing your army of 37 trillion bacteria. Okay, now we're getting to more bacteria killers, and this one's a doozy. Remember that pesticide, DDT, they were spraying all over the crops in the 40s and 50s and 60s that your parents and grandparents, or maybe even you as a child, were eating? The chemical that in the US got banned in 1972 and in Japan in 1969 and in Europe in the 1970s. So DDT is out of the picture, but old MacDonald, farmer on the Dale, still didn't want those pesky little insects and bacteria eating up his crops and therefore profits. New kinds of pesticides started being used, namely organophosphates and carbamates, and these chemicals work by busting down the nervous systems of pests such as aphids, caterpillars, beetles, and mites. But we share, little do we know, many parts of our nervous system with insects. The enzyme that it messes around with in these bugs is called acetylcholinesterase. In a healthy, normal functioning nervous system, this enzyme helps quickly break down the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, preventing it from continuously stimulating the neurons. There is a chemical in the insecticide or pesticide that binds to the acetylcholine receptor, snags that parking spot, leading to an accumulation of acetylcholine in the synapses, those spaces between the insect's nerve cells. That overstimulates the neurons all throughout the insect's body and ultimately paralyzes and kills the pest. That's great. We get fresh, pristine, mint condition crops. However, bad news, our human nervous system works the same way. What? Bugs like caterpillars and beetles are not separate or entirely different creatures from humans? Many parts of us are basically the same? Whoops again. But Descartes said we are divided. They all said that these bugs were just buzzing little machines. They don't have minds, so how could they possibly be me? Look again, buddy. Look closely. See those little legs? Those eyes? Does it look a little bit like you? Just a little bit? Maybe dissect the thing and find out even more. It will start looking more and more like a mirror showing you yourself. So it's no wonder that neurological disorders like bipolar disorder, autism, and Alzheimer's are increasing, and also maybe why my legs are feeling a little tingly after eating those strawberries. What did they spray on those things? By the way, a great reference for finding out which fruits, vegetables, and things are high risk and low risk in this regard is the Environmental Working Group, or EWG. They publish an up-to-date guide on which foods to avoid and which ones are okay. The dangerous, high-risk ones are called the Dirty Dozen, often including things like strawberries, apples, peaches, and pears, and the safer, lower-risk ones called the Clean 15, which often includes things like avocados, pineapple, onions, and melons. The list changes from season to season. They keep on top of it, though, so no need to worry. But intuitively, you can see a pattern. The foods with more natural protection, an outer shell, like pineapples, honeydews, and avocados, they're safer. And the ones who are a bit more naked, laying out there all butt naked on the farm, they get sprayed real good. They soak it all in. Busted down nervous system, neurological disorders, no thanks. You eat it. Or better yet, feed it to the garbage disposal. Another kind of post-DDT pesticide are the neonicotinoids, literally new nicotines. They also affect the nervous system, specifically the central nervous system this time, the brain and the ventral nerve cord. They don't have a spinal cord, but they do have a ventral nerve cord instead, which is super cool. Like the spinal cord, it helps transmit signals between the brain and the rest of the body, whereas ours is running down our back, protected by the spine. They don't have a spine, and therefore their ventral nerve cord is usually on the underside, hence ventral, which means underside. So it's there kind of running down their belly. It controls and coordinates their movements, sensory perception, and basic reflexes. Basically, if our spinal cord is like a complex network of interconnected cables, their ventral nerve is like a single, more simple cable with little switches and control stations on it. Anyway, you don't want to break it, unless maybe you're a sick, twisted farmer, because these pesticides, the neonicotinoids, jack that cable up along with the brain of the insects. It's a chemical very similar to nicotine. It literally means new nicotine-like insecticides. Like nicotine, it acts on the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. It binds to these receptors, pushing the acetylcholine away, stealing its parking spots, and leaving that acetylcholine out there homeless, driving around. All that acetylcholine with nowhere to go leads to prolonged activation and excessive stimulation of the receptor. Those nerve signals, that electricity keeps on firing. It disrupts the balance in the central nervous system. It's just an excitatory overload, a lightning storm. Things are getting all wild up in there. The insect wants to calm down, but it is chemically restrained and it can't. It gets paralyzed, can't move, can't eat, can't take care of itself. It dies. Of course, those bugs are much smaller than us, and they're getting directly attacked by this chemical until they learn and stay away from those plants and find a better source of nutrition. But we humans have a somewhat similar nervous system, and we have the same receptors. Hence, nicotine from cigarettes has an effect on us. We feel it. It changes us. This new synthetic nicotine might not affect us as much as it affects certain insects, but come on, to think we are totally fine eating those new nicotine sprayed crops? That would be a bit naive. Another problem with these neonicotinoids is that they're wiping out populations of bees. Whoops again. Where'd all that food go? Another failure to see how all the pieces connect. You cannot separate one piece of reality thinking it will not affect everything else. There is only one reality. Forget that, and sooner or later, you suffer. Reality slaps you in the face and wakes you up. Brings you back home where you can see that we really are all one big family. Everything is connected, and all that supposed alien stuff out there in the outside world is you. All this pesticide talk is a bit depressing, right? Let's talk about herbicides. Yeah. Another thing that happened in the late 70s is glyphosate, sold as Roundup by Monsanto, started getting sprayed all over all the crops. It started hitting America's plates, restaurants, and supermarkets in 1976. It's basically an antibiotic that got put on crops. It kills plants, the ones that farmers don't like, such as weeds. Yes, this is weed killer. You might even have some at home. I just checked it out on Amazon, didn't buy it, I was just looking at it, and you can buy it there. Oh my God, $22.28 for 1.3 gallons of this stuff. Enough to disable and kill probably thousands of future humans and probably like a gazillion bacteria along the way. Because yes, this stuff also kills bacteria. Even if that wasn't the original intention of it. Plant? I'm not a plant. Who cares? Spray the mothers. Prettier, crisper, corn and tomatoes for me. Just a little commercial break, by the way. I'm looking at this zoomed-in picture of the Roundup on Amazon. This is what it says. Pump and go sprayer 2, up to 10 minutes of continuous spray, exclamation mark. Weed and grass killer 3, kills the roots guaranteed, visible results in 3 hours. Caution, keep out of reach of children. God, sounds like a horror movie coming to a backyard near you. And then if you look on the back of the package, it says glyphosate targets an enzyme found, without a D, they misspelled found, F-O-U-N, found. Glyphosate targets an enzyme found, but not in people or pets. Come on, buddy, what you doing? Fails to mention, conveniently, that the enzyme that it blocks, the EPSP synthase enzyme, is essential for plant growth. Many plants have it. By blocking the plant's ability to produce certain amino acids, the plant therefore dies. But remember, we all, including the plants, evolved together with bacteria. We are all one team, one organism. Yes, plants might not have a gut, but they do have a microbiome that runs through their roots and stems and everywhere. Some bacteria also possess the EPSP synthase enzyme. So glyphosate kills them too. And the bacteria that don't have that enzyme, even if they don't die, I'm sure they get pretty beat up and jacked up themselves, disabling them from being able to function properly. And that also means the bacteria in your human body, not to mention the mitochondria, which originated from an ancient type of bacteria. And there are about 200 mitochondria in each of your cells. 200 times 37 trillion. That's a number I don't even know how to say. I didn't take that math class. And neurons, like brain cells, contain about 2,000 mitochondria per each little cell. Even if we don't have proof that these chemicals, 100% scientifically proven, kill these mitochondria, is it worth the risk? And to say that glyphosate doesn't affect humans or pets is like saying, oh, this monster doesn't eat cookies, he eats sugar. This fire doesn't burn down your baseball stadium, it burns down wood and grass and hot dog stands. The parts are in the whole is in the parts. Chain reactions exist. There's a butterfly effect, and there are organisms within organisms within organisms. We are like a never-ending Russian doll containing not only a rainforest, but an entire world within us. And when our inner ecosystem dies, we die, or at least we get fat, sick, and sad. These mitochondria are our batteries and much, much more. Without them functioning properly, nothing else in our body will. We began poisoning our mitochondria at least since 76, and we still are to this day. It gets into our cells really easily, and you don't even want to imagine what it does there. But you can see outward visualizations of it in the form of your fat, and you can feel it in your mood, your pain, and decreased cognitive abilities. You can watch it put your brother in a mental hospital and your mother in an early grave. It might not have been the sole single contributor, but all those calories, sugar, fat, and everything else that would be later to blame would likely be pointing back to that glyphosate and those pesticides and other bacteria killing chemicals and say, he started it, and maybe they will then go point their fingers at something else, at Isaac Newton or Descartes or God or who knows what. But the fact of the matter is, glyphosate, you and your gang got caught, and we need you to go. We need to kick you out. You've already destroyed enough lives, don't you think? Remember, the livestock are also consuming this stuff too, not to mention all the hormones, antibiotics, and all that crap that they're getting injected with, and we are eating them. This has got to end. Now, with a busted body, a busted energy system, a busted nervous system, a busted digestive system, busted immune system, we were all primed up and ready to get fat, to get sick, and for it all to fall apart. It's prime time, baby. Bring on the 80s, bring on the 90s, bring on the millennium, and load it up with cancer, psychosis, and lard. Extra cheese, please. There's one more piece of the puzzle we need to add first, though. Food additives, specifically artificial sweeteners and artificial fats. Yes, there are also artificial fats, and they're hidden everywhere. They don't want you to find them, but they're there. Let's start with these fake sugars, these sweet posers, these sugar-like wannabes. The artificial sweeteners, they go by many names like saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, and xylitol. And that's just barely scratching the surface of this sweet virtual world that delights your tongue and confuses your body, that doesn't quite cross the uncanny valley. However good it might taste, something deep inside you knows something is off. In the end, there is no fooling the wise ancient body. As excellently explained in Mark Schatzker's book, The End of Craving, our senses such as taste, touch, sight, hearing, and smell evolved as signals, not just forms of entertainment, signals about the outside world as quick shorthands, shortcuts, telling our body what something is, what something contains hidden deep within it, below the surface, the appearances. Whether that thing is good, is a true resource, and therefore should be allowed into our bodies, or whether it is bad, something that will harm us and that therefore gets spit out or pushed away or rejected. Appearances matched reality. They told us true information about the outside world. They were like green lights telling us go ahead or red lights stop. And these signals did not lie. In such a world full of trust and certainty, we can calm down. We don't overconsume. We don't freak out. But when things become uncertain, that's when problems arise. Think about your own life, relationships, addictions, finances, health problems. Whenever things are uncertain, unreliable, whether, for example, that next paycheck or text message or happy, healthy day is going to come or not, you start to hoard, you start to overdo things. You become conservative. And the same is true with calories, right? Because sweetness is supposed to equal calories. And when that equation is no longer true, our hunt for calories becomes more uncertain. Therefore, our body becomes conservative, keeping fat, consuming more calories, hoarding more just in case. Sugar is older than humans themselves. It's one of the very first forms of calories. For hundreds of thousands of years, nearly all of Earth's creatures have been consuming and seeking it because it tastes sweet. It feels good. That sweetness is a trustworthy, reliable, nearly guaranteed indicator that that sweet thing is sugar and therefore contains calories. Therefore, it feels good. It's a reward, making us want to seek it more. Sweet equals sugar equals calories is the equation deeply encoded into our biology. And so when we ate that sweet thing, we got the sugar, we got the calories, we got full, we stopped seeking, we stopped eating. Yeah, sugar itself is a bit addictive. It does crank up that dopamine, making us wanting more, but eventually we do get full. We got the resource, the calories that we were seeking, and therefore we can take a break. But when you have artificial sweeteners, the game just keeps looping and going on, and it never ends. We just keep on eating and keep on losing. You might think you're being healthy by drinking that Diet Coke, but then when your guard is down, your body finds that cheeseburger, those fries, and it wolfs it down and it stores it up and it keeps on going, doubling down, saving up, just in case tomorrow is only full of illusions with no real energy. In a world where money is scarce, is uncertain, you need to create a financial cushion. And in a world where food is uncertain, energy is uncertain, you create a cushion for the pushin', a pillow around your belly, under your shirt, looking all preggers with a baby shaped like a sloppy Joe, flubber blubber everywhere. When you feed a fish holographic algae, it keeps on eating and eating all that junk and trash on the beach, and it blows up into a whale with a never-ending appetite. When those holograms finally hit the belly, they are found out for what they really are, and the hunt goes on. You're wasting your time when you feed your body lies. Taste is just the wrapping paper. It's what's inside that counts. And your body is not going to be content with an empty box. Like throwing sweet coins down a slot machine, but never getting paid. The belly of the beast starts growling. It wants its money. It wants its food. And you keep disappointing it, so it keeps going. It is a stubborn beast. It is not going to give up, because this is a matter of life and death. Your body needs food, and artificial appearances of food don't count. Your body's not that dumb. So when artificial sweeteners came, that sweetness equals calories equation was broken, destroyed. There was no more certainty, no more guarantees in the land of sweetness. The trust had been broken. Sweetness and sugar had broken up, ended their long-term relationship, or at least changed their status to it's complicated. And our body started freaking out. It didn't know what to do. First, the bacteria, since they also can sense sweetness, they got confused, and it made our microbiome go haywire. Then it started playing around with our brain. Eating became a game of dopamine, our brain trying to predict what's coming next. When you have high certainty, high predictability that something is going to happen, like in the past when we ate the sugar and we got the calories, that's kind of boring. Dopamine doesn't get cranked up because there's nothing to predict. It's too easy. Dopamine loves a challenge, and we had created a big challenge for ourselves by creating these artificial sweeteners. And this also partly explains why there are higher obesity rates in populations of people who are in poverty, therefore living with even more uncertainty on even more levels across various dimensions of their life. I'm not going to get into the entire history of artificial sweeteners, but I will touch a bit on it real quickly. Saccharin was one of the first successful artificial sweeteners. It was invented in 1879. You might know it now as Sweet and Low. And then in the 1960s, we had a couple more, namely aspartame, which is often sold as NutraSweet, and it's also what is often in a lot of the Diet Cokes and Diet Sodas and things like that. It's also in sugar-free chewing gum and low-fat yogurt and salad dressings. This stuff is everywhere, man. And it first came onto the scene in 1965. In 1967, we got acesulfame potassium, also known as ACE-K. Sounds like a crazy street drug or something. It's often found in low-calorie or sugar-free beverages such as sports drinks, sodas, and flavored water, also in reduced sugar or low-fat yogurt and ice creams and all that kind of stuff. 1976 gave birth to another sweet artificial baby. Sweet little baby! Sucralose. You might know it as Splenda. That's the most popular brand of it. Equal is another one. Well, actually, all of these branded products are usually not that simple. In the case of Equal, it is a variety pack, a kind of combination of various different artificial sweeteners all combined together, often including aspartame, maltodextrin, dextrose, and, of course, cut with some ACE-K. The good stuff. It does not equal sugar equal calorie. Me no like this math equation. It broken. What do you mean equal? You mean equal I get fat? Equal I splenda more on your daily menu? I no pay.
Oh, those packets are free, sir. We don't charge you for those.
How about double triple cheeseburger, extra soggy french fry? You charge me for that?
Yes, sir. And most customers tend to leave at least a 35 to 45% tip. Have a nice day. Do you want a refill on that Dr. Pepper? Can I get you anything else?
We're even now seeing that stevia, that natural, ancient, South American, plant-based sweetener, might not even be safe. It still hijacks, it tricks our senses, and the whole cascade of busted body follows. Unfortunately, we are now living in a world where you cannot trust the taste. More often than not, if it tastes really good, too good to be true, you should probably run away. Remember, we are also getting scared off from fat. There was this sort of anti-fat move in the 70s and 80s, and everything became fat-free. So what did they do? They loaded her up with lots of sugar and, secret, don't tell anybody, artificial fats. Olestra was developed by Procter & Gamble and introduced as a fat substitute in the 1990s. It was primarily used in snack products like potato chips and other kinds of junk. However, eventually we did figure out that it had side effects such as digestive issues, and its popularity diminished, and its use in food products has become less common. But there's also Simpless, another artificial fat substitute that our body wasn't designed to digest. It's made of weird, funky proteins that got modified to mimic the texture and mouthfeel of fat. Simpless was introduced in the 80s and has been used in a lot of different low-fat or reduced-calorie food products such as ice cream, salad dressings, desserts, and the list is going to go on for hours, so I'm just going to stop it there. Anyway, like with sugar, for most of animal history, fat equaled fat, and now we got the appearance that we were getting something loaded with calories, but no calories came, so we kept seeking them out. Whenever our diet-conscious mind was taking a break, our body would go slip in some milkshakes and French fries and cheese and load it up with actual fat when we weren't looking. And then after that anti-fat boom, we were like, never mind, I think sugar is a problem. So in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, even today, we are so anti-sugar. And that's very valid. Sugar is very damaging. But when you still want the sweet and you just replace the sugar with sweet non-sugar, that's cheating. And your body is going to make you pay that back. It's going to get its revenge by eating even more. And remember, in the 70s and 80s and still going on, we got that glyphosate, which is busting up our mitochondria. So when we're eating all this extra food, this extra fat, due to the fat-free foods, and we are eating more sugar from the sugar-free foods, and that's not even to mention the overflooding of our bodies with vitamins and hormone disruptors from the plastics and chemicals and all of those things that we talked about in the previous episodes. Now we're intaking more junk, and at the same time, we aren't able to process any of this properly because our whole body is busted because mitochondria runs the entire show, and we don't got them working properly anymore because of the herbicides, the pesticides, and pharmaceutical drugs, and a lot of other things have been pumped into us. So once again, you have to look at the bigger picture when you just zone in on one metric like calories. Calories are what matters. We did that. We got all calorie conscious. I mean, throughout the whole past 100 years, really, and we haven't really stopped. And calories are just one part of the picture. Not to mention that the whole calorie model was based off that faulty mechanical assumption from the Industrial Revolution that our bodies are like Bunsen burners or something. But that is a tiny sliver of the story. We are a complicated system of hormones and bacteria and a million other things. You can count the calories or count the grams of sugar or fat or how many steps you took with your Fitbit, but that's only going to tell you a tiny sliver of what's going on. And if you trust too much in that, you're going to forget about everything else and become too myopic, too nearsighted. Realize that, oh crap, I'm indirectly negatively affecting a lot of things. You got to zoom out, see the interconnected web. If you eat things that your body has been evolved to associate with calories, or more accurately, I guess I should say energy, or even better, nutrition, resources that make you better, but they don't actually end up delivering on that promise. They're just illusions, hallucinations, mirages, entertaining, delicious appearances, yummy, convenient little lies. Then that's just going to make things even worse, as I have explained. And your body is like the cleverest teacher with the best surveillance. There is no cheating in this classroom. If you cheat, you will get in trouble. You want to have your 0 calories and eat it too, to eat your non-fat foods and not get fat, to taste the sweet without the sugar. This is not really possible. Yeah, you can feed yourself illusions, but those illusions are not free. You will have to pay each of those back in the form of real calories. So just to make things simpler, divorce yourself from all of that. Divorce yourself from these pesticide, herbicide-laden foods and these sugar-free, fat-free foods, all these conveniences and trinkets and hacks, because in the end, reality wins, and it is going to come sooner than you think. So might as well just join it from the beginning. Become an early investor, because the earlier you join, and you're going to have to join eventually, the less painful it will be. The wider you let that gap between appearances and reality get, and the longer you let it stay, or the more you keep sustaining it, then the harder the fall, the more painful and treacherous the return back home will be. And by home, I mean your honest connection with all things. Build trust with reality now. Stop fooling your senses, lying to your body, tricking your mind. The sooner you can do that, the sooner you will heal. The sooner you will become your authentic self, a real human being, the real you. Free, energetic, abundant, and clear. A clear body, a clear mind, and a clear path forward. Free to consume and do what you actually like, what you actually want to do. To say no to the rest, to see it for what it really is. To come back to life as a vibrant, powerful, pure spirit that you once were. Heaven inside, up in the sky, and swimming through your body and brain. Unpolluted, plunging forward with passion, calm, confident, and fully free and alive. Fully connected, rewired back into the whole, yet still raging full of independence and a spirit of your own. And that's going to wrap up this 4-part series. I hope you listened to it all. If you did, thank you very much. I could keep going on to part 12 or part 84. And I missed a lot of things in here. Obviously, you didn't talk about this, you didn't talk about that. Obviously, do you even want to listen about history? I'm not a historian. I'm what am I? I don't know. I'm figuring it out. But the less I consume all this trash and the more I consume this good stuff, the more I realign myself with my natural way of being, the more likely I think I'll find it. See you guys later. Love you very much.